All right, we are live on the Juice Business Podcast with the famous Shizu Okusa.
I'm so happy you said my name right, and I don't need to do my own little spiel.
She goes to the zoo.
Yeah,
Say it.
I'm never at the zoo. She goes to the zoo.
Shizu, she goes to the zoo. Okusa, right?
Yeah, it's funny. We were just talking about how zoos were so sad yesterday.
Zoos are really sad.
Yeah,
I don't like going to zoos.
yeah. But on a brighter note,
Aquariums are cool.
aquariums are really, really cool. I think it's the sense of freedom.
The nice one, the one in Monterey is really cool.
I don't think I've ever been.
The Monterey Bay Aquarium.
No, I haven't been.
It's really cool.
Is there a lot of juice companies out there?
No, but that's where Martinelli's is based.
Okay.
The biggest apple juice company in the world, basically.
So interesting.
They've got like 13 of our biggest juice machines.
I think apple juice really needs to come back.
Yeah.
We should really talk about apple juice.
Let's talk about apple juice.
Yeah, sure.
It's delicious.
Yep. It's pure. I think there's a sense of childlike sort of like allure with apple juice. So when people drink it, you feel a little bit like a child again.
Yeah.
And it has that like happiness.
Especially real raw apple juice actually tastes like apples.
Yeah.
And not like the stuff you buy at the store that's from concentrate.
Yeah.
And really sweet and it all tastes the same, you know?
Yeah.
Like if you actually blend a few different apples together and you can get like really unique
Flavors.
Yeah, cider blends.
Yeah. Can you tell I actually haven't done the study of like local apple juice versus like juice apples that maybe you got from like California. Can you really tell the difference of the taste?
Yeah.
Probably, right?
Sure.
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah, there's a huge variety of apples.
Yeah. We do green and then the reds and then sometimes seasonal like Asian pears and Fuji, but those are also like hard to come by sometimes.
You should experiment with actually like mixing different types of reds together and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, we should do that.
Apple blends.
Yeah, we should
good.
totally do that. I think it's as you scale the production side with your red apples and stuff, it's hard to pinpoint which one had, that apple or something.
Right.
That's where, as we've scaled, like that's been like, I think like which one has which one more, and at the bottom of the bucket that we're pouring it from, which one has more greens and like more cayenne pepper as an example, because it tends to like settle at the end, the bottom.
The cayenne does?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. I mean, so we have to constantly be mixing in order for the cayenne to be evenly split in between the bottles.
Right.
When you pour it.
That's I always get questioned. People say, we're gonna try putting juice in kegs so you can do juice on tap.
Yeah.
But the problem is that it settles.
Right.
So you'd have to have someone constantly like
mixing
shaking the keg for it to work.
Interesting. Yeah, I wonder how kombucha companies do it then. Like
kombucha is different. Kombucha doesn't settle like that.
Okay, because it's always fermenting.
It just doesn't have that stuff in it, right? Like it doesn't have a bunch of solids that settle to the bottom.
Settles? Okay. I guess so. It's funny. I was like drinking my kombucha the other day and I was pouring it out and a bunch of the like SCOBY came out and I was like, oh.
Yeah. Can surprise you.
It really surprised me. I was like, maybe I can start my own kombucha with this. It's my first SCOBY.
Kombucha starting in your stomach, basically.
Yeah, oh God. Oh God.
So you spoke at JuiceCon.
Yes.
Well, before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about your business. It's Wellthy Co, right? Or Wellthy Co?
Yeah.
Which
is
one?
the parent. So we started initially as Juice and I. Most people don't know that.
Juice and I. Wow.
I know. And
know
like
that.
our logo was this little heart-shaped thing with like little like handwriting, like Juice and I in capitals. And we're like, this is so cute. And then we looked at it and we're like, all right, this juice company is not going to be for children. So this will be our parent company name. And then we created JRINK as sort of like our DBA or doing business name and like our official operating name. And that was in 2000, or we started as JRINK Juicery actually. And then we evolved more. We removed the juicery for like, very sort of purposeful reasons because we didn't want to be boxed into just being a juice company. And I think a lot of people probably feel that way now.
So it's just JRINK.
It's just JRINK. So most people know us as just JRINK or JRINK or Junior Inc. and like all these random other names.
I hear people say JRINK.
Yeah,
I'm like, I think it's drink.
Yeah, it's just drink. Yeah, it's like juice for J and then it's a drink. So we started in 2013. I was working at the World Bank still. And we found a shared kitchen space to start because we had no food experience. We were bootstrapped. We had no money and we didn't know anything about juices. And we started actually with like a Breville juicer at home and just like juiced all the different ingredients and had like 25 different cups of different ingredients and just started like tinkering different recipes
Mhm.
and then playing around with the shelf life. And we had no idea of going into nut milks even at the time, but
Right.
like things had evolved then. And but we started as like a delivery company because we didn't want to open a store. So we said, okay, how do we test juice as like a viable concept in DC in the very beginning? And
Mhm.
we built or I built a Squarespace website to take like very basic orders. And we started with like a 3-pack, and then we started with like a 6-pack. And then people started buying like cleanses. And so we were doing deliveries twice a week after work, and then delivering in the morning or at night, depending on the customer. And customer service was like myself. And you basically do everything in the very beginning until you quit your job.
Yeah.
Yeah, which was about a year later.
Okay.
Yeah.
And your previous job was?
So when I started my career at Goldman Sachs, I was in trading and distressed investing, so private equity. So it was like, buying companies that were like bus companies, for example, is like a good example, that were dying businesses, but still had sort of like an opportunity to flourish. So we would, turn that situation around by buying equity into the company that was like, quote unquote, dying.
Mhm.
It wasn't like the most uplifting experience per
Yeah,
se.
you're working
So
for the man for sure, right?
yeah,
Or you were the man.
at Goldman Sachs,
Yeah.
the octopus, and they call him the evil squid or the tentacles. And but actually, Goldman was probably one of the best experiences I've ever had. Like, I think when you're in it, you'd obviously have a very different perspective. I would never speak ill of Goldman and like all the things that they taught. The culture is amazing, and I'm still friends with like all the people on my desk.
Cool.
Yeah, you learn a lot.
That's obviously helped you in your business somewhat.
It definitely has. Yeah, I think just like the thought of, I think we always make decisions based on numbers because numbers don't lie. Emotions can lie, and like we tend to make decisions on hyped emotions
Mhm.
or when we're like stressed or we're operating out of fear versus out of love. And so I think numbers just don't lie.
Hmm.
Yeah. So I think that's just one thing that we always took to turn to heart is sort of, what do our numbers say? What's the trend? Because trends also tell you a lot more about the story versus sort of a number that was in the past.
Right. And then the newest part of your business is Apothekary.
Yes, yes. So Wellthy Company, which is the parent company name, the vision is that they would own multiple wellness brands. And so our business is 100% direct to consumer, meaning that we sell directly to the consumer on like Instagram or Shopify or through our stores. And we don't use a middleman, which is what most like quote unquote HPP juice companies would do, is sell to like Whole Foods, for example.
Mhm.
But there's such value in having that direct to consumer relationship because you can talk to them, you engage with them, and you keep them. So,
Not to mention,
mhm,
then you're not giving your margin away to the middleman.
100%.
Yeah.
Exactly. So your margins are going to be about double because you would otherwise give that 40% to the retailer that needs that margin.
Right.
So Apothekary was born about 6 months ago. And we had the vision there is that we wanted to take healthcare more broadly in a way where juice solves certain issues in a more reactionary way, I think, where it's like you're hungover or you ate too much or you didn't eat enough vegetables.
Detoxing, right?
Detoxing versus this sort of like preventative care. So let's try to get you not to get to that point necessarily, but we all are going to get to that point anyway. But what's happening in the grocery world and sort of in like Whole Foods and that evolution towards plant-based, we believe that that's going to happen in the pharmacy world, which hasn't happened yet. So like the CVS pharmacies of the world, the whole body section of Whole Foods, who's going down there? No
Mhm.
one, because we all want more plant-based healthcare alternatives. So Apothekary is a digital pharmacy, pharmacy with an F, and we customize herbal blends and superfoods and medicines for people based on their like Ayurvedic dosha type.
Where do you see the future of business? Not so much as like products, but digital versus retail.
Uh yeah, I think it's a constant question in our minds too. It's like how many stores do you really need? And like especially in one city. When we first started, I think because juice was so new, people wanted to have it accessible anywhere. Now, I think brick and mortar, because you can get juices delivered to you, that's at least our own business model, or you can get it at like Whole Foods or get it through Amazon. There's no need to really go to a store anymore. So I think it almost depends on your adoption cycle of where you are from the product side. So if you're a juice, you're like at the late adoption stage. You really don't need to have a store, in my experience. Or if you have a store, you should have a layer of like experience.
Mm-hmm.
So experience could mean like made to order. So you could see smoothies being made. You could like get a bowl with your friends after Soul Cycle. Like that's the experience versus bottled juice already made. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the days of the storefront, you walk in, there's just a refrigerator with bottles of juice.
Yeah.
It's pretty much dead at this
Oh,
point.
yeah.
I mean,
I
I think it
agree.
still survives in busy areas, like,
Yeah.
in certain areas of Manhattan where you just have so much foot traffic
Right.
and so many people with disposable incomes that will just come in and buy juice. But
Right. Right.
I've seen a lot of those places open and close
Yeah.
in the last few years.
So, and then I guess, but to your question, maybe it is about, retail being less sticky. And so we really work it as like a retail as a service model, where to say, landlords are going to have issues when at some point being able to lease out their spaces. So negotiating really short-term pop-up opportunities
Mm-hmm.
with that fridge in a model, or to bigger companies that like a Macy's or like a Nordstrom that doesn't have that kind of thing, but they have extra space somewhere where you can have like a local brand kind of come in and do like a pop-up experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the direct-to-consumer business model, let's talk a little bit about digital marketing.
Sure.
So when you're selling direct-to-consumer on Instagram,
Yeah.
social media, e-commerce, how do you find customers?
So our cheapest source of marketing and cost of acquisition is 100% going to be referrals. So today, about 60% of our customer base are referrals. We measure that. The best way to measure that, at least, is if you have an online website and you can connect that to like an app. So we use like Referral Candy as an example, and that helps to feed sort of top of marketing. If you think of like and we talked about this a little bit, but like an upside down triangle, where you're top of the funnel, you need to just get like eyeballs in and like brand awareness. And so by people posting photos of like your juices on Instagram, referring their friends, those tend to be like the cheapest source of marketing. In order to make those work, you definitely need to have something that's talk worthy about. So there's like that whole, have you heard of Seth Godin?
I don't think so.
Seth Godin is so he's like a serial marketer. He does this like alt MBA thing, alternative MBA program. It's all about marketing. And he wrote this book called The Purple Cow. So basically, then his analogy is you're driving down the road, and if you go by like a farm field and you see all these cows, you're not going to notice them. But if you notice like a purple cow, you'll stop and be like, "Oh my God, it's a purple cow." So that analogy is like always stuck, because if you think about what's going to make people talk, even if they hate it or even if they love it, at least they're talking about it. And so I think it's that philosophy and the mindset of, what does your juice look like? Either, make it like a little bit sassy, or what's going to make people talk about it. And that's been like the cheapest source of marketing. So think about your packaging, think about like what's in it, think about the experience in our stores. That's been just like our biggest source of top of funnel marketing, and cheapest too. Yeah.
I feel like a lot of juice companies start out and they really struggle with that end of it.
Yeah.
Like they're super passionate about juice and they really want to make juice for people, and they believe in it, but then when it comes to the digital stuff, they're just kind of scared of it and don't want to touch it.
Right.
So what would you tell someone that's having that problem?
I guess, I think if they're, I think when we first started too, it's so uncomfortable. Like starting a business is uncomfortable. Doing and learning things is super uncomfortable, especially as you get older. You're like, your reception to change is like, it's harder, but that friction is what grows you. And so I would always encourage people to, always be open-minded and always be humbled, because your customers will teach you things that, like, if you're open to it, you'll be able to learn from. But I think with the digital marketing side specifically, I was really insecure about in the beginning too. Like, I don't know I didn't know anything. I didn't know the words around it. I didn't know like what people talked about LTVs, which is lifetime value, or like CAC, cost of acquisition. Like, I don't know what that was. Uh, but you ask the question, Google it. Like, you can Google a lot of different things in the world. You can YouTube things, you can listen to podcasts and people talk about Facebook ads on YouTube and just listen to it as back noise. Eventually, you'll get a good grasp of at least the vocabulary. What we did was we actually hired someone and outsourced like our Facebook ads for a period of time. And most companies will charge you this like monthly retainer that's like $4,000. It's expensive, but I thought of it as an investment where I can just pay $4,000 for someone to set up my ads. I will make him set them up in front of me so I can actually see him do it and learn from it, ask the questions during that process if he's going to do it. And then maybe I could run my own ads in like 2-3 months and fire them basically, because I don't need someone to basically set up one-time ads and get an annuity of my money. So I would encourage people to do
We've been
that.
through that several times where basically you hire a marketing firm.
Yep.
And I think the way we were doing it, they're charging like a flat rate plus a percentage of ads that you run. So they're charging like I don't know what it was, maybe like 5% of all the ad
Right.
money you spend
Right.
plus the base rate,
Right.
which was kind of weird because then they're incentivized for you to spend more on ads
Oh, interesting.
instead of focusing on how you can spend less on ads, right?
Right.
So they're always like, yeah, why don't you start running some more ads, you know? But then you find out that basically what they do in the first month, they set up a bunch of ads,
Right.
but then they just let them run. And every month they're just paying, and they're
Yeah.
not doing a lot of work.
Right. And so I think, and to that point, I think there's different results that they'll present to you. Like something I learned over time, like I love these guys, but at the same time, they're business, right? The results that they present to you, if you don't understand what they really mean, you'll think you're doing well, but you're not actually doing really well. So for an example, we were always measuring cost per impression and then cost per or like return on ad spend. But that could mean so many different things because your return could have been number of clicks, or it could have been the number of people that added to your cart, or the number of people that actually purchased was really, really low. And so just like poking at that and at least understanding some level of what they're presenting to you, I think is really helpful because otherwise you're just spending money. You have like no idea what they're spending on. But, and I don't know how you feel about this, but do you think we're kind of getting into peak ads at some point, right? Like everybody's in ads now. Everybody wants to be an ad marketer. Everyone's spending into ads. It's becoming really expensive.
Yeah. And there's also a lot of people that are like pitching, you can be an ad guy and work from home and do all the Instagram stuff. So
exactly. Yeah. Everyone's an ad marketer now.
Yeah, it is interesting though. There's definitely been in the last couple of years more and more companies launching going direct to consumer and just advertising on social media.
Yep.
Like you see everything now. Like I know at least for me on Instagram, I always see ads for like Fortune magazine says the softest shirt they ever touched. You know, and it's like
Yeah.
just those. They're marketing basically one product.
Yeah.
But that's like their little micro business.
Yeah.
And they don't have to deal with distributors and retail and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And it seems like it's starting to get pretty crowded.
I feel like it's, I think you're right.
Which means ad costs must be going up, right?
It's super expensive. Like with JRINK, we don't pay as much ads as we do on Apothekary, mainly because we ship nationwide. So your market opportunity is bigger. So I think if you're thinking of doing ads, think of like how big your market opportunity set really looks like. Because if you're only going to be serving a local small market, probably doesn't make sense to do that many ads. Only because there's probably cheaper ways of going about that marketing, like doing gyms and yoga studio tastings where you already know your audience is like an informed audience about health and wellness, versus like in ads, you're kind of hitting the average Joe that's like maybe like still needs to go through the idea that like health is important. Some people don't even have that sort of like warm mental mindset. So like sifting that out, and like if you thought about top of funnel marketing, you're probably already in the middle of the funnel marketing because they already know they want to be healthy.
Yeah. Yeah, we've done a lot of like Facebook ads and stuff at Good Nature, but it never really, I think for a commercial product, like like we try to get super specific, right? We say,
Right.
okay, wealthy people that are business owners
Yep.
that work in food and beverage.
Right.
Okay, market to these people, show them our juice machine, and either two things would happen. One, we'd get leads, but then
Yep.
we'd call them, and they'd be like, "Oh, I thought it was like a home juicer or something, like I don't want it." Or
Mm.
two, they would even like leave comments like, "OMG, I can't believe Facebook thinks that I could afford a $15,000 juice machine.
Oh
This
my
is so."
God. Oh my God. The comments are the comments are the next, like a whole nother conversation. But yeah, I wonder if I guess ads I found it harder to do ads for B2B or business to
Oh yeah, for
business.
sure.
Yeah,
I think it's probably not even worth it.
maybe. I don't know. Maybe Google ads, maybe more because
Yeah, yeah,
they're
but
searching
that
for
for
it.
sure. But like
Yeah.
the social media stuff,
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Interesting. Yeah. I don't know. Not
But
sure about that.
anyway,
Yeah.
for a consumer though, I think it definitely makes sense.
Yeah.
Consumer products.
1,000%. I mean, D2C, to your point, is it's funny, actually. We were doing an analysis of our Apothekary orders and that were coming in. And the orders coming in for online were different than the top sellers that were coming in for our stores. So that was interesting, I think, for two things.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, for example, if you buy online for your groceries, you buy different things than if you would if you were buying at Safeway in store. I never thought of it that way, though. So
what do you mean? Like, yeah.
So, for example, Apothekary is like a herbal pharmacy. We have 2 locations in DC, and then we also ship to your door.
Mm-hmm.
People buying online on our website, we're buying more beauty products because your happiness and excitement for getting that package was much higher than when you go into our store. You're more curious about the food aspect of it. So our top sellers in our stores were our turmeric or our matcha things that were a little more you put into your smoothies, versus online was more of this glam and aspiration around beauty products and skin blends and powders. Okay. So it's the buying, and maybe this is about digital marketing, is what's the customer journey look like? Do people actually want to buy herbs and food stuff online versus skin and beauty products? So that was really interesting.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And we're still kind of wrapping our heads around the strategy and how we talk to our customers that are new. And maybe our focus is more in those ads, at least we're talking more about beauty then, instead of, oh, here's how to make a smoothie online.
There's also, when you're hungry, you want to eat, right?
Right.
But when you're browsing Instagram, you're not always hungry.
No. You're usually doing it, yeah.
But beauty stuff is anytime, right?
Right. And it's usually when you're bored.
Right.
So when you're on social, you're kind of bored. Uh-huh. Or you're looking at fashion tips, or you're looking at how to make my skin better. So that's where I think conversions actually are higher, is through the beauty lens.
Right.
So that's an
Not
interesting
only that,
angle.
but you're scrolling and you're seeing all the beautiful people on Instagram.
Exactly. I want that. I want her skin.
Oh, a skin product.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. I have a lot of
add to cart.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then juices are just different. Cleanses are a little bit of a different messaging, because it's about, oh yeah, maybe I could lose a few pounds, or maybe I could be a little bit healthier. And we've definitely found with JRINK, even to the type of ads and the words that we use, focus on more statistics, things that are before and after results, if you can do it, or how much produce is in a bottle, be numerical, which I think has been really helpful.
So you're saying when you show actual numbers, that helps with the online ads?
Yeah, conversions and stuff, for sure. Just so we did this whole DEXA scan. Have you ever done one before?
No.
So DEXA scans are, you do you lie on this big machine, and it basically scans your body of your fat content and your muscle content.
I've seen that. There's this Aussie weight loss show on Netflix.
What's it called?
Bring Sexy Back.
Maybe I should watch it. That's so funny.
So I just saw that the other day, actually.
Okay. So the scan will give you a full analysis of your percentage of body fat, your percentage of lean muscle mass, and then your resting metabolism. And so we did a before and after test on a reboot customer and like
Mm,
what that looked like. And you have statistics to back it. And so you
mm.
could use that as a case study to say, like, not that this could be everybody, but like, hey, this is like tangible results that you can expect. So we always say, like, what's your return on investment?
Do you think we could use that method to show that like natural sugar and juice has different effect than soda?
Probably, maybe. Oh, I can, I'm sure there's going to be a test for that at some point, like some kind of sugar analysis. I don't know if the DEXA scan would work with that so much,
Well,
but
but what if for 1 week
yeah.
you had someone drink 3 juices a day,
Mm,
and you had someone with like the same body makeup drink like maybe say 3 juices from concentrate per day, right?
right.
And then tested them again at the end of the week
Oh, I'm
or a
sure you
month or
could see
something or
that.
something.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Hmm.
I would love to try that.
Yeah,
I think that would be a really cool study because I think there's still like a sugar confusion.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's being spread by organizations like the World Health Organization,
Yeah.
whose their biggest donor was, at least last time I checked, was Coca-Cola.
Right.
So it's like even if you're like a third party, if you're doing scientific studies and like even if Coke isn't like, hey, make sure that these results come out good for us, right? You know, as an organization, like maybe you want to give data that Coke is happy with because that's where all your millions of dollars are coming from, you know?
Right. It's crazy. It's like the amount of, it's funny. So I'm Canadian and like in Canada, I don't know if there's as much like lobbyist situation going on. But when you come to the US, it's like shocking.
Yeah.
It's like they're literally bribing people.
Yeah, I
In a,
know.
it's synonymous with bribing, but we
Hmm.
don't say bribe, we say lobbying.
Lobbying, right.
Yeah. And it's like they make so much money.
They make a lot.
Yeah.
And it's public data too. You can
Oh yeah.
see
Yeah.
all the lobbyists getting paid and stuff, and it's like millions and millions of dollars. Some
Yeah.
companies, it seems to be a lot of big food and beverage and pharmaceutical
Yeah.
are all paying tens of millions of dollars a year in lobbying costs.
That's crazy. I mean, it should be good when JMA comes out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Are you
Yes.
excited?
Yeah. About JMA.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, Juice Makers Association announced it at JuiceCon.
Yeah.
I've been doing a lot of work since then with like the legal stuff, filing the paperwork.
Yeah.
I've been talking a lot to Hannah Crum, who the founder of the Kombucha Association.
Okay.
She's been helping me a lot, kind of like figure out how to write the bylaws and how to build the board. And
Oh my God, I didn't know it was such a,
oh yeah,
oh my
yeah,
God.
it's a serious thing because it's a nonprofit, right? So the
Right.
government has super strict like, here's what you need and here's how you elect the board and all this stuff because they want to make sure it's like actual a separate entity and not just
Right.
some like way to not pay taxes and stuff. So it's pretty complicated.
I'm just curious. So what does the Kombucha Association lobby for?
Their big issue was when the government all of a sudden came out and said kombucha has alcohol, so you have to be 21 to
Mm.
buy it,
Mm.
and that was a big problem for them. But then they successfully lobbied and got that overturned
Okay.
to say that it's not enough alcohol. There's still some like black label kombucha
I
that's
see that.
yeah,
Yeah.
but so that's a big problem for them. But they successfully like lobbied and got that changed, so
Okay.
which
Oh,
is pretty awesome.
interesting.
Yeah.
That'd be great for the juice world. So good. Like,
Yeah, the main thing that the JMA is going to focus on is number one, increasing transparency
yep.
because the biggest problem right now, in my opinion, in the juice world is that there's too much confusion over terms like cold press and
Right.
raw. Like
Right.
HPP brands are saying it's raw. Um, Brands that aren't actually pressed at all are calling it cold press.
Right.
Um, like there's a brand in 7-Eleven that says they're
Oh yeah.
organic cold pressed juice, 20 ounces for $3.99, right? So if you're an average consumer and you see that, but
Right.
then you go to drink, how much are your juices?
$10.
Yeah, and you see a $10 juice,
Right.
and the label looks the same to you. You're like,
Right.
organic, raw,
Yeah.
cold press, no difference.
Yeah.
So I think that confusion is number one, hurting sales for companies, but number two, just confusing people so they don't really trust the
Anything.
industry. They
Yeah.
don't know why the
Yeah.
prices are so different, and they don't
Right.
know, or the term cold pressure for HPP, they don't know that's different than cold pressed.
Yeah.
So that's really confusing. So I think if we can just get brands to at least members of the JMA to just agree to use the same terminology,
Yep.
then if we get, hundreds of juice companies using all the same terms,
Right.
then that's at least a really good start.
Right.
And then phase 2 is actually lobby to get those terms regulated.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that would be a really great way of like accreditizing or like legitimizing the product, and almost like you have to be a part of this to like earn that. Or it's
Right.
kind of like the USDA symbol in some ways, or kosher, or
Yeah. So we have
Yeah.
the little JMA certified logo.
Right.
And our idea is that you have a QR code on your label if you're part of the association, and people, so that you just scan it with your phone, it'll bring you to the JMA website and the specific web page for the listing for that brand. And I'll say, look, we checked out how they're making the juice.
Yeah.
What they say is true. It's cold pressed. It's made in a press. They're not HPPing it. They're not pasteurizing it. It really is raw, or whatever. If they are HPPing it, that's fine. Just make sure they put it on the label.
Right.
So that we just build trust.
Right.
Like, we're not taking sides. We're not saying HPP is not as good as raw or
But
whatever.
these are the facts.
Yeah, but these are the facts.
Yeah.
Like, if we have a right to know the ingredients, why don't we have a right to know how it's made? Right?
Will there be talks on HPP versus pasteurization as well as like a big topic, or?
I don't want to get into a whole like versus thing. I
Yeah.
think just like, are you pasteurizing it? Yes. Okay. Put it on the label.
Yep.
Right. Or are you HPPing it? Okay. Put it on the label.
Right.
And some people prefer to drink HPP or pasteurized juice because it's safer. Right.
Yeah.
And it is for sure
Yeah.
safer. I prefer raw juice,
Me too.
but the JMA is not going to take sides.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Yeah. That's not the point of it. But
Yeah. And then other things like, if you're doing something to your juice, if you're putting something in your juice that's considered a processing aid
yep.
and not an ingredient under the FDA, then you don't have to put it on the label. So there's chemicals, like toxic chemicals, that you can use in small doses
Yeah.
to preserve juice,
Yeah.
that because their lobbied the government to have it not counted as an ingredient, they don't have to put it on the label.
Actually?
For real, yeah.
Why did I not know this? What?
There's one called Velcorin you can look up.
So that's an ingredient that people use in juices, but you don't need to write it.
It's a processing aid, yeah.
Oh my God.
So and there's all kinds of this stuff. And if you go to these like trade shows that are for the other side of the beverage industry,
Yeah.
like not the natural products,
Yep.
but the concentrates and the additives and all that, the big beverage stuff,
Yeah.
they're all like clean label, clean label, clean label. They're saying you can put this in your beverage and you don't have to put it on the label. It's like a major marketing selling point for them.
Yeah.
And that's because they have their own association. There's one
Right.
called the Juice Products Association,
Okay.
which juice products means concentrates and preservatives and like all
Right.
this stuff,
Right.
processing aids.
Yep,
So
like
they
the
have their own
Sunlights.
association that's lobbying the government. And they actually prefer less transparency instead of more.
Of course.
Yeah.
I feel like that's like the beauty industry and like what's coming to there too, right?
Yeah.
It's like everything.
Isn't there an app that's like clean
Beauty?
beauty?
I mean, there's
I mean, it didn't you say there's something to help people know if their beauty products are actually good for them or not? Or
there's new things coming out where you can actually scan like QR codes and stuff, where you can actually see like, is everything here listed is X. But FDA does not regulate the
Right,
clean
not at
beauty
all.
industry, not at all. So there's a bunch of parabens and a bunch of ingredients that you do not need to write.
yeah, I was
Yeah.
I was curious once because I had the idea of starting like a argan nut oil company,
Okay.
because our machines you can like press oil out of all
Yeah,
different
yeah.
kinds of nuts.
Yeah.
And I was looking up the regulations. It's like none.
None?
Yeah, there's
For-
no regulations on
Oh, wow.
cosmetics. You just unless
I see.
you're using certain colors
Yep.
that are tested on animals.
Yep.
But other than that, there's nothing.
There's nothing.
Yeah.
I think that will change. It'll take a few years, but I think it's going to change. There was that, I think I was reading a newsletter yesterday. I think I had sent it. It was like
Oh yeah, I read that. It's good.
everyone's saying, they were natural products, but they're actually not. And so there's a fine line. And
That's where I was
yeah.
reading that about the
Oh,
app.
okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Got it. Yeah. And
Okay.
like how blockchain is coming into effect,
Yeah.
how people are using biotech now and like connected technology in order to make ingredients more transparent.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's a lot for consumers. Like, it's a lot for businesses. How do we keep up? I don't know if, as a business and a small business owner in a juice bar setting, like, how do you manage everything in that respect? That's a lot of research. It's a lot of resources that you need to have. So I always say sometimes that, like, if you just keep it simple, just like keep it super simple, and like what your value is, make fresh juice, just make a really great experience,
Right.
make a really great product. People will come back. People will write you a great review. They'll share about it, and like, just keep your head down. It's like, it's a little bit noisy out there right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So you spoke at JuiceCon.
Mm-hmm.
It was a really popular speech. We sent out a survey about who people would like to see at 2019 JuiceCon, and somebody said more people like Shizu.
Sweet. Oh.
Yeah. So what kind of feedback, since you spoke at JuiceCon, have you been getting, or kind of questions from people?
So I think it's I think there's been a few sort of common ones. Was A, how do I do delivery? That's one. Or like B, how do I go omni-channel from where I am today? Like, they don't know how to connect the dots of like, this is the dream, and like, but I'm here. How do I do it? And so almost this like clear path of like step 1, step 2, step 3, or like a user manual almost. Another one that's popular is sort of the omni-channel supply chain side, which is called Canteen. I know we've talked about it a little bit, but is the app that we're developing for companies like juice companies to be able to automate really a lot of the day-to-day monotonous tasks that owners are still doing when they only have 1 to 2 locations. So like taking inventory on like your paper sheets and like getting juice all over that, and then taking a photo of that and then sending that to your kitchen. Like, those tasks that you're doing 3 times a day, like, let's automate that. Let's make it like in the cloud. Let's make it like your resources and everything, your training manuals, everything to be on like one platform. And then being able to actually then automate your kitchen orders so that you're making only what you need every given day, because spoilage has been sort of like the number one priority for, I think, a lot of juice companies that have 1 location, and especially if you're thinking about opening 2 or 3. So that's another big one. And then digital marketing is like a big one too, is just, how do I think about the ads that I want to write? How do I, get emails, and how do I actually create newsletters for people and keep in contact with our customers? Yeah.
So how do you do that?
The newsletter side. So because we started as a delivery and tech business, we always had prized using the same platform online and offline. So we use Shopify for our online orders. And the reason we use Shopify, even though they don't really have a great POS, just super transparently, is because we can see where, Joe Schmo comes into our store, but he also orders online. We can see what store he goes to, what he's ordering in store versus online. If he's ordering online, what store is he picking up? That information is really valuable because it tells you also where and what real estate you should be looking at for your locations. Because that was our deciding factor of when we opened stores, was where our deliveries were the most popular.
Interesting. That's really interesting.
So you have guiding information for that. And so if you don't do delivery now and you're doing Uber Eats or something, then ask Uber Eats to potentially be able to share information with you. For Postmates or Uber Eats, DoorDash, they have that data. You should be able to get it from them, because we got it years ago at least. Yeah, we did years ago. Things might be different now.
It seems like they would be incentivized to keep you separated from that, right?
Yes.
So that people keep ordering through them instead of through you.
Right. So I think as a business, though, that is pretty destructive, I think, because it's a disservice to customers that they also can't talk to the person that they actually got the food from or juice from. And then as an owner, you're paying 20% commissions, and then you also have no idea where your customer lives. You don't know how old she is. You don't know what she's drinking. You don't know any of that.
Yeah.
Then you're just a manufacturer.
You meet a lot of great delivery drivers, though.
For us?
No, I'm saying when they come to the store to pick up the...
I guess so. But I think as an owner, it's that's kind of disheartening.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like you actually want to see your customers. You want to see them happy. You want to like talk to them. You're seeing a driver every single day. It's like, what are you doing this for?
Yeah. Yeah. Middlemen aren't good in
No,
general.
no.
I mean, I think the way the internet is changing everything, like
Mm-hmm.
middlemen are just disappearing,
I think
their
so.
business models are dying.
I think so.
Like, look at us. We don't have any dealers for our equipment
Right.
because people just know they can just find us online.
Right.
We sell it to them direct.
Right.
10 years ago, you needed dealers because they knew all the businesses in their area, right? And if
Right.
you wanted to sell food and beverage equipment in that area, you needed some guy that knew everybody.
Yes.
But now you don't.
Right. You can Google everything.
Yeah.
Yes. So Google's the middleman.
Yeah, that's true.
But no,
But
but
in a
like
good way, though.
in a
Yeah.
good way, in a very transparent way.
Mhm.
And so I think that that's probably the number one thing is how do you get brick and mortars to go bricks to clicks?
Yeah.
How
Bricks
do
to
we?
clicks. I like that.
So that's our tagline is like
Okay.
brick and mortars to go to bricks to clicks,
Mhm.
and be able to say how do you leverage your bricks, your stores, to also be able to make that into a clicks model. And so you can really be anywhere and everywhere for everybody. And we'll take you online. Like we'll do the hard lift for you. That's our value proposition.
Who's Canteens?
Canteens, yeah.
Yeah.
Canteen.
So when can we expect to see Canteen actually functioning in the market?
Probably it's going to be an April thing. We have a bunch of folks. Thank you for everyone from JuiceCon that reached out. Will be part of like the beta launch.
Mhm.
And obviously you guys will be a big part of it from Good Nature, just to test out the first phase of what things look like. And the first phase will be focused on brick and mortar. So if you have 1 or 2 locations, again, this will help get you as an owner out of the kitchen, out of the store, and focus on what you do best. And what you should be focusing on is growing the business. So thinking about strategy, thinking about real estate, meeting influencers, growing your social media, versus pressing and cutting 5 apples or ordering and thinking about what to order for the next day.
Mhm.
I felt like when we were doing that, we were in survival mode.
Yeah.
And I feel like a lot of businesses are constantly feeling like they're in survival mode. That's what causes burnout, and that's what causes you to fail
For sure.
and give up.
Just day after day after day.
Day after
like,
day.
Yeah.
You're at like Maslow's bottom of the hierarchy. Let's get you to the top.
Yeah.
So, I think so that will be phase 1. Phase 2 is how to connect your stores to eventually get you to take online orders and allow you for seamless in-store pickups. So you can order on your website. So whether it's like redapplejuicery.com, you can go on to redapplejuicery.com and pick XXX juice that you offer, or like your cleanse, and you can pick whatever day to pick it up in store as you see fit. You'll be able to collect and get revenue when you're sleeping because you don't need to have your store opened for that. You'll be able to increase your volumes for that. You'll be able to collect emails, all the things that are super valuable for a even bricks to clicks model. So that'll teach you how to get online in phase 2. Phase 3 will be, all right, how do we get you to full omni-channel? How do we now take you to be able to actually do your own deliveries and take online orders and get delivered to your door versus have to get the customer to come to your shop? Because that's still going to be, I think, the tailwinds of customers not going to stores and stuff anymore.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you consider the different channels in omni-channel?
In terms of?
Like, what are the multiple channels specifically?
So omni-channel, I would say, is in store. So that's one. So you definitely have like one sort of retail outlet where your staff, your brand is selling the juice direct to the customer. So that's your like retail direct. And then there's the online side where your people are just going to your website or your mobile app and then ordering directly again through you. So that would be like what I see, like full omni-channel. And then there's wholesale. But again, that's where like things get a little murky because you have a middleman. Does that answer the question?
Yeah. Sure. Yeah.
So I think it's the online and offline components where you're integrating the two together and they should not be separate. Sometimes where we get slammed on is when we have, so our deliveries, we actually do use the middleman. So I think what's hard about omnichannel is what do you actually take in-house and what do you outsource? Because there's some parts of that supply chain that like if you don't have the capital to do it, you won't be able to afford, 5 trucks and like 5 delivery drivers on payroll. So we outsource the delivery part. And so we have a partner on that. And with Canteen, we're going to work with our partners again to be able to leverage them also for other juice companies. So with that delivery side, I think it's being able to do the routing of things and the logistics seamlessly. So you as a juice company are not a logistics company at that point. You can just make the product. So Canteen will help with that too. But it's just, again, it's a way to do more of what you're already doing in a timely manner, in a way that's like market relevant, in a way that's going to grow your skill set as an entrepreneur, and then also just be engaged on like an online setting, and like on a rainy day you're collecting zero revenue. That won't happen again.
So if someone orders online,
Yep.
the order goes into Canteen.
Yep.
And let's say they get 15 orders from 15 different customers. How does Canteen deliver that information to the business?
So I think I remember at JuiceCon when I talked about the hub, because we didn't have a name for what this was then. So we talked about the mothership and the hub. So it goes to this like almost this like central online cloud-based place where basically what it would look like is you go to, you go to online as a tab, and you'll choose your delivery date. And then you'll see all the customer orders that are going for that date that customer had placed an order for. And you'll see their name, what they had ordered. And then you'll be able to download a spreadsheet that says exactly how many bottles that you need to make then for all of those customers.
So it aggregates everything.
Yep.
It says you need this many green number 4s, you need this many whatever.
Exactly. And Canteen phase 1 will already had included as an input, you'll put in your recipes. So based on that recipe, you'll also know how many apples you'll need to order, and then how many pieces of like lettuce you'll need to pull, etc. And then from there, you'll be able to know how much produce to order.
That's great.
Yeah. So it'll automate everything. It'll be sent to your email. We're working on integrations with Slack. So if your team uses Slack, that'll be a great way to have like notifications also of like, hey guys, like the order was submitted, or hey, like I just submitted my inventory log. And you'll get 3 times the notifications for like your staff placing order or inventory, because that is also so important, is like your staff to be taking inventory and what's spoiling, so you can have smart data on making decisions on like your PARs and like what to order from the store perspective, especially with raw juice that has such short shelf lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the tricky thing about juice.
Yeah.
The short shelf life.
Very, very short.
And it's also not like making coffee. Like coffee itself, when you make it, has a short shelf life.
Yep.
But the beans don't,
No.
The beans
Right.
can sit there for a little while.
Right.
They're just like dry beans.
Right.
But even the produce, like the main ingredient, has a short shelf life.
Right. But, and also margins on juice are so much slimmer than coffee.
Right. Coffee's water. Basically.
Coffee water. Exactly. Yeah. It's like, you don't care if you spoiled like 5 coffee cups of coffee. With juice, you're like, oh my God, that could have been $15. Literally that you threw away.
Yeah. It dawned on me one day that Starbucks just sells water. It's like there's coffee, which is water. They sell their ice drinks, which is are all ice, which is water.
Right.
Other teas are water.
Right.
It's like they're just
selling water,
making billions of dollars in water.
Totally. But spending it on, I guess, on staff. But no, to your point, that's exactly right. Yeah, you're so right. I think for juice companies, then it's the question of what's the percentage that you're selling made to order versus like juice too. And I remember you talked about that. So what's the percentage again that people are selling?
So most juice bars, actual juice, only makes up less than 30% of their revenue.
Less than 30%.
Yeah.
So
the rest is smoothies, bowls, salads, wraps.
But that stuff is arguably, and correct me if I'm wrong, more labor intensive, like smoothies.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And like salads and sandwiches. So you'll probably need 2 to 3 people at any given time, even if it's slow. Your inventory and your spoilage would also be pretty high, and your margins are probably slimmer. So with that being said, if juice is still a higher margin business and is easier technically, then omni-channel would be the way to go, because then you can now sell juices in average ticket size that's going to be at least 10 times higher, because people are buying bulk for delivery.
Yeah, and juice delivers well too.
It does.
Smoothies don't,
They do not. Yeah, they do not.
You don't deliver smoothies, right?
We don't. No, it doesn't work with our glass bottle.
Okay.
For some reason, it's just like it's heavier, and then it like settles, and it looks kind of.
It's gross. Yeah.
It's gross. I don't know.
I've never seen delivery smoothies. It's probably not a good idea.
So and I'm sure you've seen their ads. It's like there's juice companies that do blended cleanses, like blended juice cleanses.
Yes.
And I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know. What do you feel?
So, are you talking like when they add the pulp into the juice and they blend it?
and then they freeze it, and then they send it to you frozen.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So the cleanse is essentially frozen when delivered, and all you have to do is stick it in the fridge, and you just start it the next day. You can buy them on Groupon.
I don't know.
I don't know how I feel about it because so you can buy that for like $30 for a 1-day cleanse. I think it bastardizes the product.
Yeah. I mean, the whole point of, I don't know. Seems like the whole point of juice is that it's fresh and
right, not adulterated.
Frozen,
yeah. So I think the other thing that a lot of people have reached out to is like, what's peak juice? And then like, if you go omni-channel, like, do you go all the way to omni-channel of like shipping your juices? And so we stopped at that point. So from a drink perspective, we said, okay, we already actually have the capability.
So deliver, but not shipping.
Ship it. Yeah. That was the next phase that we really talked about with our company and our board and our investors. And I said, look, like, here's the next phase if we really are going to lean into juice and go like all the way. But I think that's where economics really change is when you go on traditional distribution channels like FedEx and UPS, because you'll have to ship cold. You'll have to ship, your team will have to have juices ready at like by 3:00 every day because FedEx won't pick it up the next day. So it's less nimble. And so I think that's where it stops though, as like a company to say, okay, you're fully omni-channel, you can expand your delivery radius. But I think going shipping nationwide, unless you have like a boatload of cash to compete on ads, you're competing against like the Blueprints and the Evolution Freshes of the world, which is hard.
Yeah.
Not to say that's not impossible, but I have yet to see it happen for juice.
Yeah. I know Juice Press delivers nationwide.
Do they?
At least they used to. I don't know if they still do, but
I don't know.
They were for years.
Yeah.
And I know lately they've been opening up stores in other cities.
Yep.
They did one in Seattle, one in Vegas, one in Boston.
Right.
And I'm wondering if that's to drive their like e-commerce.
Maybe. I don't know.
I actually don't know.
Yeah.
I'll have to ask Marcus.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that one. I feel like Juice Press, I mean, they have a great product. I feel like, maybe I think their made to order stuff is probably, to your point, probably a sizable portion of the revenue is still more like smoothies and soups and juices than juices.
I don't know. Their market's different. Manhattan's like, yeah, maybe.
The celery juice thing is definitely giving a win back to juices.
Oh,
though.
yeah. Celery juice.
So cheap.
That like came out of nowhere.
I know. I mean, I think we should be ready though, as juice companies, all of us, to be prepared that will be a trend. Maybe. Only because, it was like the kale and avocado years in the past. Like it'll eventually come.
I remember like 6 years ago bringing a bottle. I just made pure celery juice.
Oh, you did? You were ahead of the trend.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Go Charlie.
I brought it to the gym.
Okay.
It was this boxing gym. And there's this trainer there. He's all into juicing and stuff. And I was like, I just have pure celery juice. And he's like, oh, that's too alkaline. You shouldn't drink pure celery juice.
Is that what he said?
Mm-hmm.
Look where we are today.
I should send him a message.
Yeah, you should.
Like, now how do you feel about celery juice?
Yeah, it's like, are you still not doing it? Yeah.
Like, is it still too alkaline, bro?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, so it's interesting of like why celery juice is also so popular. I don't know if we're asking that question of like, we know it is healthy and we know that like all the influencers are doing it, but why?
Well, there's like an article, right, Robin? There's like a, we published an article about this recently.
Yeah.
What's that? Yeah, medical medium. A guy wrote an article on medical medium. That seems to be where everybody's
going.
Referencing, yeah.
Yeah.
Like a few other blogs reference him, and then other people reference those blogs. So
Right.
it just kind of became viral.
Right. It's like for the skin to like losing weight and detox.
And then all the juice companies jumped on it because
Right.
it's like a super cheap juice, right?
Yeah. But I feel bad. It's like we also like, so we adjusted our pricing for that, but I think a lot of people have not, which that's fine, right? I think as consumers, it's convenience, right? At the end of the day, like let's give ourselves a little bit of credit here as juice companies too.
Oh yeah.
Like
I guess all I'm saying is juice companies are quick to just be like, believe it, right?
Right.
Because you want to believe it.
Right.
Because celery is so cheap. And
True.
like, oh my God, we could just make pure celery juice. You know,
Right.
and so it's
Like
selling
this
that.
is, yeah.
Yeah, so then they helped hype it up too. And I mean, I do think celery juice is great and good for you.
It's good. It's actually, it tastes good too. It's a little bit savory and like I feel like it does curb some of the cravings there too.
Yeah.
But
celery and carrot together is pretty good.
I actually haven't tried the carrot one with that. Interesting. I'll try it.
Half carry, half
carry?
half calorie.
Calorie. Yeah.
Half carrot, half celery,
Yeah.
maybe a little lemon.
Yes.
Pretty good.
Oh, I think that'd be great. I like straight turmeric is like probably one of my
Ooh,
favorites.
really? I don't think I've ever done it straight.
It's super earthy with like black pepper oil. I like black pepper
Ooh.
oil because it absorbs better, kind of like MCT oil and like that whole keto movement is like the absorption.
Yeah.
So the oil helps to absorb it as like in the body better.
So what kind of oil is it?
It's black pepper oil.
So it's oil from
extracted from black pepper.
Cool.
It's like olives to like olive
Nice.
oil to like amaranth. It's like oil to argan oil, nuts.
Nice.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think something that we're also seeing is like our nut milks. Like, they were super popular, and then they're still popular, but I think it's people are
plateaued, right? It's
a little bit.
It doesn't seem like it's.
Yeah, I think people are now coming back to oat milk and sort of like not nuts.
Mm-hmm.
So, as like a juice retailer, as we think about like our nut milk options or plant-based milk options, how do we think about like diversifying our ingredients of milks too?
Yeah, there's hemp milk now.
There's hemp milk, there's oat milk, there's there's backlash on milk itself, like calling it milk.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. So.
Oh yeah, that's so funny.
Like MYLK.
That milk lobby getting in there.
Seriously. Yeah. I mean, I don't even know. Yeah. I can't. There's so many tailwinds.
Have you seen that fake ad that's for the milk farmer, the nut milk farmer?
I don't think I have.
Oh, it's hilarious.
Is it? I haven't seen it.
It's this guy he's got all these tiny little machines that are milking almonds.
Oh my God.
It's like
that's
just like
so
milking
funny.
these almonds. Yeah. He's like, my grandfather was a nut milker. I'm a nut milker. And he's got this farm full of these nuts. Yeah.
That's so funny.
And he starts like talking to them and trying to listen to them.
I will have to see it.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about the juice shot world? So, when you walk into Whole Foods, shots are in the whole body section, like in the supplement aisles.
Oh.
Versus in the juice aisles, which I think is interesting, right? It's the same ingredient. It's just in a smaller size. So therefore it's packaged and moved into a different section of the store.
I think it should be with the juice.
Yeah.
Here's why I think so. I think a lot of people get turned off by the size of a juice, like 12 or 16 ounces.
Right.
And maybe they just want like a small, like 4 ounce or 2 ounce.
Yeah.
Like ginger, lemon, whatever.
Yeah.
So I think they should have them right next to each other. So people are like, oh, I'll just take the...
And like pack it and boost it.
Instead of kind of like looking at the juice cooler and being like, oh, $8, $6. Do I really need all this juice? I don't know if it's going to be any good, right?
Yeah.
I think the shots are a smaller commitment.
True. And like smaller and like full of everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I tend to think so. I think there's actually quite a bit of opportunity still in the shot section. If like juice companies haven't done it yet, is get more into like the booster shots and like really thinking of like innovation of like, so we call them multivitamin shots. That was an interesting sort of like beta test that we did where we like A/B tested calling them shots in the very beginning versus liquid multivitamins. That was like a night and day kind of like game-changing shift where people were more like, oh, this is like this covers like all my nutrition. This isn't just like taking a shot, which you envision this like bar situation.
Yeah, that's true. So then that would lean more towards putting it in the supplement aisle, right?
I guess if you message it that way, probably. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I think from a juice bar perspective, or at least the online, this is what's also so great about online. You can easily test things and measure it.
Right.
And like the click-throughs to conversions just by changing the name of something. So, and that's like really valuable information because it also tells you how to merchandise your stores and like your fridges.
Let's talk hashtags.
Okay.
Talked a little bit about this. And you have some advice on how to find good hashtags.
So one of our staff members on our team, her name's Tara, and she had mentioned she's super smart, like super capable in like the marketing world. And we talked a little bit about how do we take our hashtags that we use and like not that you shouldn't, but using hashtags that are overused is going to be similar to like walking down a grocery aisle with like 5,000 different options. Choosing the one that kind of sticks out like a purple cow. So one that's between sort of this like 50,000 use or 20,000 and a million. So like that's kind of a sweet spot of hashtags that you should kind of look at in that area or in like your product. That way you'll come up more relevant in a niche market, which is more of like, I think you even said was like focus on the niche spaces as you thought about trade shows, is like focus on higher conversion, higher sort of click-throughs of people that you're really targeting to.
That's Peter Thiel's whole philosophy is like, if you can be a monopoly in a small niche,
yes,
is much more profitable than trying to compete in a big market.
Absolutely. You know? Yeah. I agree. I tend to agree with that a lot too. And I think,
do too, yeah.
Yeah. It's so tempting.
Yeah, for
it's
sure.
So tempting.
If we just get 10% of that 100 billion.
No, exactly.
Yeah.
And you see it in pitch decks and fundraising all the time.
I know.
Right? It's like, what's your TAM?
$1 trillion market.
Yeah, it's your total addressable market. And it's like, no, guys, let's actually talk about your addressable market of like what's literally outside your front door.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that FOMO haunts us constantly as like entrepreneurs and like business owners is what more could you be doing? What more could you go? And I think this sort of, I think we're all coming to terms with the idea of like, you don't need to kill yourself to grow your business. There's a level of like, you created this to have control. You created this like as a passion for wellness, and don't lose that because you yourself cannot go unwell.
Yeah. Very true.
Yeah.
We've definitely seen some stressed out juice business owners.
I know.
You know, they like raise a few $1 million and open a bunch of stores and then they're just like,
It's too much.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I certainly think if at the 1 to 2 store level, like making sure like your operations are intact and like you have your process, and I hope this doesn't sound crude, but I feel like I can say it here, is process over people. And I don't know if I mentioned this on the JuiceCon thing, is the JuiceCon speech is process over people, is at least on the line level staff where you're seeing a lot of turnover. If you can't set them up for success and create processes and checklists, and like Canteen is a good example, if you can't set them up with that, it's a recipe for failure because they'll resent you for not setting them up and you'll resent them for not taking their inventory. And
sure.
it's like, not working.
Yeah. Why didn't you know you had to do this?
Exactly.
Right?
It's like, well, you never told me to.
Yeah, exactly.
And like, and as owners, we didn't even know we had to. We don't know what we don't know. And I think that's the petrifying thing of entrepreneurship, is like our unknown unknowns.
Yeah. We pretty much have a philosophy here that if an employee doesn't do something that you expected them to do, but you didn't specifically ask them to do it, then you kind of like, all right, let's build this into the process. And
Yes. It's like the whole like agile. So Canteen business partner, Ben Lucas, and we talked about like agile development, and it's like, okay, let's take feedback and iterate on that before we take it to the next place. Yeah. And so, I think getting feedback from your staff is super important, at least from like the JRINK and Apothekary level. It's been like that. And we want to make sure everyone's kind of like a part of growing the business.
How do you get feedback?
I mean, I would like to think we're all very, very open, where people, I mean, I get emails from like our line staff all the time and like getting in feedback at like the store level. So when I go to the stores, they're pretty open to me about like, this is not working. So like one thing for us last year, we launched a loyalty platform that, you know, we thought was going to be great, totally omni-channel, ended up being a failure, and we ended up pulling it back this year. So the reason was Shopify Online had a great loyalty platform, and there hasn't been apps in the past where they're completely omni-channel. That's an issue, is because as business owners, we don't have tools yet to help successfully build us to be omni-channel.
So you mean you can get feedback at the store level or online?
So the loyalty platform was like, you spend X online, you get points and stuff. But those points weren't able to be used in our stores.
Okay.
And so customers were upset with that. And granted, they should be.
Yeah,
and
right.
we were upset with the app because we're like, well, this should be omni-channel because you're on Shopify.
Yeah.
Because Shopify is omni-channel.
And you're even using Shopify POS and it still doesn't work?
And it's still, well, because POS doesn't have like app add-ins. It's not as it's not as built out as the online side.
Interesting.
So I think with that being said, so we rolled that back and we ended up going to like this digital punch card situation for like our bottle returns. So it was a whole ordeal, and like we learned a lot from that experience. We paid a lot of money and wasted a lot of money, but we learned, and you can't win everywhere.
Yeah.
So the idea with Canteen was like knowing that, you know, we went through those failures. Let's not let that happen for other people.
How important do you think it is that companies start to focus on digital? Like, if you are a retail juice bar
Yeah.
and you're doing okay,
Yeah.
how important is it that they look at digital?
I mean, I think I'm biased, but I also don't think this is a biased perspective to say like I think it's super, super important. I think look at Sweetgreen. Like it's a really good example to say Sweetgreen was a salad company. Now they are not a salad company. They now call themselves a tech company that makes salads as a product. And now you can order online to pick up at any of their locations. So that's a very good example of, I think, the bricks to clicks. You order clicks first to pick it up in stores, knowing that the shops are going to be super busy. And so that is a good model of, I think, a lot of companies can like kind of look at. Granted, we're not all going to make or raise $500 million or whatever it is that of capital, but eventually that technology will be more and more available for people to use on a more sort of like micro level, like without having to invest in the actual technology in it. So we can't be first movers. Not all of us can be, but we can at least adopt and like keep up with things.
Yeah. I personally feel the internet's really changing everything.
Yeah.
Like all businesses.
Yeah.
The businesses that aren't getting online are just not going to be here in a couple of years, you know.
Yeah.
I really feel that way.
What do you think of wholesale? I know you mentioned before about like intermediaries are kind of going away, but
I mean, everybody likes grocery stores, right?
Yeah.
I think there will always be grocery stores.
Yeah.
So I think there will always be wholesale brands, but I think the barrier to entry of just selling direct to consumer,
Yeah.
like the higher margins and everything,
Yeah.
it's super attractive. And I think it's better for the customer. It's better for the business, you know, having that direct relationship.
Yeah. So do you think then as juice operators, when they start and they open, they should have already a functioning website?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think that should be like, if you can only afford a website or a store, launch a website, in my opinion. You know what I mean?
Interesting. Yeah. That's interesting.
I don't know. Maybe I might back up on that a little bit.
We'll have to go back. I think we'll have to test that one a little bit.
I think like for food and beverage, it might not be true because people want to come in and like experience it and everything.
Right. Yeah. It's kind of like that. Yeah.
If you don't have money for a website, you should probably raise more money or like save more until you have enough, you know?
Do most people, in your experience, raise money for their operation?
I don't think so. I think most customers probably have some disposable income that they use to open their first juice bar, or they might have some, you know, a very casual friends and family kind of investment.
Right.
No like pitch decks or like seed rounds or anything. Just yeah.
Do you have I don't know if this is like hopefully not a taboo question, but what is sort of like a seed amount of money that makes sense, you think, for the beginning?
For brick and mortar?
Yeah, you're opening a store, you are buying a juicer, you're developing your recipes, you probably have a functioning website. What's a good amount of money that you should have in this day and age versus maybe 5 years ago? You know, I don't know if you
think like 300,000.
300,000? Yeah.
I think so.
Okay. Interesting.
I mean, that would give you money for equipment, store, website.
Yeah.
You know, hiring the right kind of help in the beginning if you have to hire consultants or
Yeah, I'd probably agree with that number. Maybe a little higher.
A little higher?
A little bit higher.
Yeah.
I think there's the room to get to profitability money. Not even the build out cost. Like just the cash burn money.
Yeah. I agree with that actually.
Yeah.
Because it can take you 6 months to figure out how to be profitable, right? As a juice bar, or even a year or something.
I think so.
Yeah.
And sometimes where I think is that 1 to 3 locations could actually be the make it or break it. So if you're thinking of expanding from more than 1 to somewhere where it's even 2 or 3 and it starts to become uncontrollable in an easy way, and you're like moving juice literally every single day from one shop to another, that's like an hour away or whatever, than having like $1 million, which is a lot of money.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot.
So did you raise money for your businesses?
We did. So I raised money in 2000. So we started in 2013 when I was part-time, put in 25 grand. And then I haven't had to put in more money until, well, we didn't take salaries for 4 years, or I didn't take a salary for 4 years. That's a long time to not make any money.
Yeah.
It's a long time.
Wait, so you started JRINK with 25K?
With 25K, with no salary though.
Yeah.
So what's the equivalent of my salary times 4 years? Maybe put in, I don't know. This is going to get cocky. I don't want to be too.
You'd pay yourself what, 10 grand a year? No, just kidding.
If I was still at Goldman, or if I was in private equity still, I'd probably be making 500 grand a year, which is a lot.
Wow.
And too much money. That's a private equity analyst.
So you start your business with 25K.
Correct.
But now you're saying you'd recommend someone have more than 300,000.
So we started very differently though.
Okay.
So for example, for us, we started online. I built the Squarespace website. So if you capably can build the website, raise less. Right. Like if you know you can build a commerce site, you have experience, and like you have security and comfort doing that, do it.
Mm-hmm.
It'll actually probably teach you a lot too.
For sure.
It'll take a lot of time.
It's actually very valuable to be able to just fix something instead of have to pay someone and wait and like, you know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Just like tinker around and just fix it.
Yep. And I think something that happens when we raise money is that we get better at spending money than making money. For
sure.
And that is dangerous.
Yeah. I mean, you see some of these companies that lose more money than they make in revenue. You
Absolutely.
know? Crazy.
Yeah. And you're also congratulated on the fact that you raised money versus actually making money.
Yeah. They raise money. Then they raise money at a higher valuations. Yeah. Everyone's celebrating that the company's not worth more.
Yeah.
Although they've just burned $30 million. Like,
exactly.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And like actually the ones that we were talking about, the intermediaries, are the ones that are raising boatloads of money. Like I saw DoorDash raise $400 million. It's because they're not making money.
Right. Yeah.
Like let's not forget that. So anyway, back to so we also did shared kitchens. So if you can do that, I think you should. But I think when, we were talking a little bit yesterday too, that the commissary model itself is changing a little bit. So that if you're not doing commissary and you're making in your stores, you can probably also save a little bit of money there. But your build out cost at your store level is probably much more expensive than what we had put in, because we did shared spaces. So we didn't have to actually invest in like a brick and mortar like a traditional juice bar would, because we had no intention of being a smoothie operator or avocado toast bar.
Right.
And that's why we're not leaning into that. And that's why we're doing like the Apothekary move, which is getting us kind of out of food and beverage. But that was a conscious decision. Like I don't have the experience of a restaurant operator. I don't get passionate about avocado toast or salads.
You don't?
No, I don't.
I love avocado toast.
I mean, I like it as a consumer. I don't like the
margins. You get passionate about eating
it.
That's the question.
Yeah, but I don't want my passion to be everything of my life. Yeah. And what's interesting, I think, is like owners and entrepreneurs is that when we start something, are you the creator of it, but you might not be the builder of it, and you might definitely not be sort of like the CEO of it. And then that's another conversation, right? The founder versus CEO.
Yeah.
And
definitely. Different mindset.
Different mindset. Yeah. And I think it could take your business to different places if you're constantly trying to innovate inside your business.
Yeah. And that's another important point. If you are a founder, it's hard for a lot of founders to give away some control and like bring someone on that might be better at operations and like running a business,
Yeah.
But I think it's important.
It's super important. I think our best hires have been like all the people that have brought in experience to like our company, and like our investors are also super great and super helpful. And I think, my job is just to make sure that like our financials are in order, we have enough capital. That's like what a CEO does.
Yeah.
But I think from a day-to-day perspective, probably much better people are going to run it than I am. And I fully know that. Yeah. So. Yeah.
What advice would you give someone that needs to raise, let's just use that number. Let's say someone needs to raise $300,000 for a new business. What would be the first step?
So I think retain equity as much as you can in the beginning would be really important. So after JuiceCon, I did talk to a number of juice companies that were just really curious to know like how much money they would need in order to build a website, to like, getting to the next place, because they're dying. They're literally still in the kitchen just making juice and surviving.
Mm-hmm.
So the first step is let's get you out of there so you can think clearly and you're not deciding on emotion.
Yeah.
So the reason I say, keep your equity as much as possible is because when you get desperate and you bring in someone else that like doesn't get involved in the day to day and they just give you money, you then have a boss. That's not why you had started the company at such an early stage. So I think going to banks probably makes the most sense in the beginning. It's like if you're going to start a company, you could probably get like a $300,000 like loan or like line of credit, at least of like $50,000 to start from like for buying inventory. I think it's super valuable. So just thinking through like how much equity you have, how much ownership you want to give away.
Yeah, so definitely try to tap into the non-equity
the non-equity
first.
pool.
Yeah.
Exactly, yeah. So like debt to like banks. Crowdfunding is another option.
Oh yeah, crowdfunding is awesome.
We never did crowdfunding, but
crowdfunding is like the dream. You get all this money and you don't have to give them anything, right?
Right. Well, except product, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I've invested in a couple Kickstarter things and I never got anything.
No? Actually?
Yeah, I invested in this like camera lens.
Oh, no way.
And they like said everything was going fine, and then updates stopped coming. I paid like maybe $500.
Okay.
And then they put out, then like months went by with nothing. Like it was 6 months past when it was supposed to be delivered.
Oh my God.
And they said the CEO got in a car accident. We're not really sure where to go from here.
Oh my goodness, that's so sad.
Yeah, it's sad, but at the same time, it's like
right. I guess it doesn't look good on Kickstarter either, though.
Yeah, for sure.
Ooh, I don't know. I mean, there's new models of even like crowdsourcing nowadays for companies, which is interesting. Like Circle Up is a good example. Have you heard of Circle Up?
I don't think so.
So Circle Up is they call themselves like a tech fund that is a VC shop that uses quant and data to make their decisions. It's the first sort of CPG focused VC fund. The guys are amazing. They're super smart guys, like all like tech former SaaS companies, but investing primarily in CPG and food. And
but how do they use quant data for consumer packaged goods?
So they built this new sort of like algorithm or some kind of technology. I forgot what it's called. I forgot. There's a name for it, but it's this software that basically analyzes like social media data to website data, and you can rank them almost like very quantifiably, like what. It's almost like an indicator of success is earlier on is like who's trending on Instagram, as more to say like what's going to be the most popular thing versus like historical revenue, which is like so past tense.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating. So Circle Up is a good example of like a marketplace that connects angel investors with food companies.
Okay.
So I've seen, brick and mortar juice companies on there. We didn't raise money from them, but we were on their platform. So I got to talk to investors on it. I think for us, because we were so hyper local, it didn't make sense to raise money from someone in Florida that's never tried our product. Yeah. But that's a good platform if you're focused on like really raising money in like a more serious way. When I say serious, is like a Series A one day to like wanting to be $1 billion company.
Right. So let's talk about the super, super basics of raising money.
Yeah.
Right? First step, make a pitch deck, right?
Correct. Well, at least know your numbers. So I think as an entrepreneur, it's like, what's your basic of what's your sales, what's your margin, like what's your gross margin? So gross margin is like your sales minus your produce cost, your kitchen labor. Anything variable will get you to your gross margin.
Right.
And then from there, you'll want to know your profit margin.
But do not include overhead. I have this discussion with people so much.
Right.
I say, here's the gross margin of the juice. They go, but you're not including utilities and rent. It's like, yeah, but that's not part of gross margin.
Exactly. Yeah. That's your fixed cost. Yeah. And that gets to profit margin.
Anything that doesn't change with the amount of juice you make should not be included.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. And I know that's super confusing for people, but the reason on that is because you want to have a sense of what your volume is to break even. Because your fixed costs aren't going to change. So your top part will change. And so you have levers there. You can either grow revenue or you can cut costs. And that will dictate your profit margin.
Yeah, and I think that helps you manage your business better when you look at it separately.
Absolutely.
Because that stuff doesn't change anyway. Don't even look at it, you know.
Right.
I mean, unless you're trying to bring down your overhead, but it's like you can't focus. Like if you start dividing your overhead up into every bottle of juice, it's so deceiving.
It's super deceiving. Yeah, it's true.
And then what? If you only make one bottle today, you have to put all the overhead from the whole day in one bottle of juice.
Yeah, no, that doesn't make sense. Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
I forget where the quote was, is you can only cut costs so far too.
Right.
Like the most sustainable way you're profitable is you have to grow revenue.
Yeah.
Have to grow revenue.
And we just saw that with, it was in the news, the Heinz Kraft.
Right.
Oscar Mayer, that company, their stock just dropped by 25% because they're so focused on cutting costs.
Right.
That they didn't do anything else
to innovate.
Mm-hmm.
It's very true. And I think what's also, I think, good to have as like an entrepreneur is like a community. So I think like the good nature community is really great to say like, where should I be actually spending my money? Because when you only have so much money, you're so scared to spend it.
Right.
And I know that happened with me personally, whereas like when you come from the stage where if you're unprofitable for a period of time, and we were for a period of time, is you don't want to spend anywhere. And then you start neglecting things and you start letting things slide. So like, don't let that hold you hostage. Is like your past, and like let that hold you back, because you have to spend to actually make money too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
But it's different as like growth spending versus maintenance spending. Like, so in finance, we call that growth CapEx versus maintenance CapEx. CapEx means capital expenditures, which usually means like, okay, growth CapEx is I'm going to buy a store so I can buy more customers. You're buying growth, versus maintaining is like, I'm just going to fix my existing store so I can grow organic same store sales. So it's like organic growth. So I think as a business owner is like, what are you focusing on? If you're raising money, what's that growth CapEx for? And how much do you expect to get from that expenditure to get you to here?
So are we still talking about pitch deck?
I think so. Okay. Yeah. I was talking about like fundraising, but
yeah, no. So, but should you be putting this in the deck? Like, here's the amount of money I need, and here's what it's going to be used for.
Yes.
And here's how it's going to help my business grow.
I don't see that enough in decks.
Yeah.
Maybe because I come from finance, where I think it should be more like formulaic. What I see in pitch decks nowadays is like, here's the industry. This is the addressable market, that $1 billion market that I'm going to capture, definitely 10% of it.
Yeah.
Like, this is the dream, and you're selling the dream. But at the same time, you also want to be really real with people of like, this is not a Ponzi scheme. Give me $50K so I can buy this machine.
Yeah.
And this machine is going to get me this. I think investors appreciate that.
Definitely.
Yeah. Something that's boggles my mind.
If I've looked at a lot of pitch decks, and when you have to figure out what the money's for, it's a lot different than they just lay it all out for you.
Yes.
And it's like, okay, this makes sense. I'm going to give you some money. You're going to use it for this, and then the business might grow.
Right.
All right. Sounds good.
Right. Exactly. Yeah.
You
I
know?
mean, you've seen our deck, and I think we had like a sources and uses like page. It's funny is like, and something that I've learned and boggles my mind, and I think it's helpful for entrepreneurs to know this. You'll get more no's than yeses, but selling the dream has always been more successful necessarily than selling what's reality. So you want to make people feel like they're a part of your dream. You want to make people feel special, and like you're in this like next trend of like you're the next Google for juice or something. Which is not going to happen. But like, yeah, you want to sell the dream. And I think you as the entrepreneur just needs to know, like, don't lose sight of the dream, sell the dream, like get people passionate about your idea and why, bring them product, give them product, like get them to love everything that you're doing. Yeah. That does not, I think selling the dream, selling your passion will be number one, the most important thing.
Okay. So then beyond that, so say you have a good pitch deck, and you're raising some money. I guess there's a couple different things. There's raising money just like, I just need money now, right?
Right.
For this.
Right.
And I'll give you some of the business.
Yep.
But then there's also raising when you're planning on raising again later.
Yep.
Where it's a little bit different. Like you can be raising on like a convertible note.
Right.
Which is what?
A lot of people do.
I mean, can you explain what a convertible note is?
Yeah. So I think when you're growing, it's hard to put a valuation on your business because you're growing so quickly. If you valued your company then and there, I don't know if it does justice for the entrepreneur versus like in 6 months already you've 50% increased your revenue and your valuation then changes. So what convertible notes do is it pegs you to a certain cap. So usually when you do talk about convertible notes, you can raise money on a valuation cap, which means literally like a top of, this is the maximum amount that your valuation will be, but this is like what you're securing yourself into. So for example, like let's say you have $500,000 in revenue a year and you're growing that like 50% every year and you're trying to raise $500,000. You can say, okay, well, I see in the market that most companies are valued like 2.5 times revenue. And the reason we're doing it on revenue is because we're not quite profitable yet and because we're spending more than we're making money. Only right now because we're growing literally 50% year over year. So we're doing it on a multiple of revenue. And so 2.5 times on, let's say, revenue of 500,000. So you're like maybe $1.25 million in valuation cap. But because that's still kind of early, investors are like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like there's going to be times where you're going to like slow or you're not going to grow as quick. So you're locking in 1.25 for X period of time. So convertible notes allow you to stay in a debt structure versus equity. So they don't have any equity in your company. They essentially gave you a loan that has a
which
maturity
is the note
date.
part of the convertible
Which is
note.
the note.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so the convertible note, the convertible part is that it converts into equity in X period of time. And the note part is because it's still debt. So at that point in the business, you don't have a board necessarily, like no one's on your board. They don't have any equity per se directly in percentage ownership, but they will eventually when you have an incident. An incident could be like either an activity of like you raised X number of money, again, like a Series A financing, or you get sold, or you unfortunately maybe have not raised money, or you go out of business. Then at that point there's an like sort of a milestone and that converts into the equity.
Right.
But that cap allows you to sort of peg it.
Yeah. And I like convertible notes because you're kind of like saying, look, I don't know how to value the business right now. You don't know how to value the business right now. So let's just agree to value it later.
Yes.
But just give me some money now.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
But you know that you have at least this amount.
Right.
Yeah. Which is always really helpful. So
and they usually get a little bit of a bonus too. Like
they do.
The discount.
Yep.
When it does convert to equity, they get a little bit, like maybe 20% bonus or something. Yeah.
And the interest. Most times
interest,
it's like accrued interest too. Right. So the longer that it's outstanding, the more you get equity and ownership and back versus like cash. But so it's definitely an easier way. I've seen, so we did a safe note in our very beginning too. What safe notes is used more in tech companies, but safes is like a secure agreement for future equity. It's even quicker than a convertible note. Mainly because you just agree to a valuation cap. There's no interest. It's indefinite in terms of a maturity too. So it's a lot faster. So that's more friends and family though, for sure.
Yeah.
And then convertible notes, you could probably think about more beyond just friends and family. And then if you decide to want to raise like a Series A round with like venture capital or something, then that would be like a priced equity round.
Yeah. So it goes, right, friends and family, convertible note, Series A, Series B, Series
C, D, E, F, G, and then maybe public.
Or like D1, D2, D3.
Exactly, exactly. And then there's bridge notes, which I think most people don't talk about enough.
Yeah.
Bridge notes are when you really need money and but it could be for an opportunistic opportunity too. Like something comes up that you didn't expect when you raised money 6 months ago, but you really want to do it. And so you can raise money quickly on that.
Yeah. The way I like to think of that is kind of bridging the gap between two different funding rounds. It's like there's Series A.
Yep.
And then you're like, look, we weren't expecting to need more money right now, but we kind of do, so we're raising a bridge round.
Yep.
And then you do the Series B later.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know what you think, because I think you do some angel investing, right? Does a bridge note come across as bad?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Usually.
But it doesn't have to
unless
be,
they have a good explanation though. But I mean, it's almost always that they just run out of cash before they thought they were going to.
Right. So what are your thoughts on that then? Would you invest in the bridge note?
Again, it's like a red flag.
Yeah.
But it's always like, well, why weren't you planning on raising money now? Before, right? Like what happened that you need money now when you didn't think you were going to?
And if that reason is valid enough.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I will say it's tricky as an entrepreneur to know how much you need to raise. And that's always a common question. Is how much should I raise? Always raise more than you need is like probably a good rule of thumb. Because you always want to spend more on things. But at the core of it, like, again, don't be good at making money. Don't be good at spending money. Yeah, that's hard balance.
And what would you say, like, to a juice company? Like, would you just encourage people to try to be profitable right away? Or would you encourage them to raise money and not be profitable for a while?
It's a great question. I think for the first few years of our business too, like we were trying to do both, which is really hard because I think you're suffocating growth at the same time because you also want to be profitable. So I would say looking back, there are probably areas where we probably would have grew faster if we had invested quicker or like spent more. So I think it depends on like your team. Like, do you have a good team to rely on backbone to like keep up with the growth if it comes? And then B, what's your tolerance for risk? Because I think if you're okay like being in the red for long periods of time and always being on the road fundraising, go for it. If you're not, don't do it.
Right.
And
then that also almost becomes your job, right? Raising money.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Fundraising is a full-time job.
Yeah.
It's a full-time job.
So then you're not spending that time working on the business.
Exactly. So, but that's kind of like digital marketing too, that we were talking about earlier. It's like know your core, your expertise and know what you are as a CEO and like what your job is. If your job is not to like run the Facebook ads, then you probably want to hire someone, but you should at least understand it.
Yeah.
Because you need to understand that to talk about like how much money you want to raise for spending on that. So you can't do everything, but I think CEO is like a jack of all trades job where like something happens in the kitchen, you can jump right back in again. You know how to operate things. Or like raise money is a big one, or digital marketing, because you're going to get those questions. Like last year, and it hasn't even been a year, our kitchen manager quit. And my COO and I, or back then director of ops, were like, oh shit. Sorry, can I swear on this? Sorry.
Fuck no.
Fuck yeah. Okay. So when that happened, we're like, oh, fuck. And we're like, all right, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And it happened. And the very next day, we had to, I think it was like 2,000 bottles or something. It was a crazy amount of juice. And it just so happened that the next day was like that. And it was me and him and 2 other staff, because we also, this is the messiest part of like having a business is, like we had our kitchen manager, but her family was also part of the kitchen. And so she was juicing with her cousin and her cousin's like girlfriend. And like, I'm not proud to say this, but it's the reality, right? Like they're bringing in friends. And when she quit, her whole family went with her.
Whoa.
So like
that's heavy.
That was heavy. It was like 70% of our kitchen staff walked out. But it was a risk that we had to take at some point because we were being held hostage by our own kitchen team.
Right.
I'm not okay with that. You can't be. But I think it went too far. And at some point, we're like, all right, let the Band-Aid like rip. And it ripped. It ripped real bad. It ripped real bad. Yeah. So we were juicing for at least a month, me and him. And like in the
really?
X1.
Interesting.
And like trying to run all the day-to-day at the same time is like taking an investor call with the X1 running. Where it's like, hey guys, I'm wearing an apron right now. But like,
what do you mean?
I got this.
The X1's not loud.
Oh. God, we're literally screaming with that like metal stick going. It's like, hey guys, like bring the pineapples out. And but you know, I think our staff also appreciate that like you can get your hands dirty, obviously, alongside them, and it's super important that like you know how to operate things. So I was always like the kitchen mat. Like I would print the sheets to say like, all right, you guys make this. Like this is how many bottles we're doing. You're line the bottles. So like you need that manager to dictate and like be the militant, and then you need people to operate the different sections and different parts of the kitchen. So we hired for those roles, and eventually, like those are just some of like the growing pains, though, like just staff and turnover and processes again over people. We didn't have the processes then to like really like get someone very junior to take up what she was doing before.
Right, because it's all in their head. Right?
It was all in their head. Yeah. And so I think downloading what's in their head into paper and like processes and documentation is super important.
I see these really obnoxious ads for an app called Trainual. Have you seen them? They're like these two like Harvard bros. They must be like 22,
Yeah.
and they're like walking down the street. They're like, the most important part of your business, you got to get your processes down. And then they're like, we figured it all out for
Oh
you, and we
God.
got this app. It does it all for you. I'm like, have you guys ever even had a job?
Yeah. And like run a business
Yeah.
before, right? That's the other thing is like people sell you left and right. And some people
Hmm.
are really good at sales. It's like, how do you
Right.
really know that this is good for me?
Hmm.
And so I think as an owner too, sometimes again, this is where like you need to make a decision with your head and numbers versus like with your heart and your emotion.
Yeah.
And so, because you could waste money really easily on these kinds of
Phew,
things.
man.
Yeah.
Yeah, we decided to implement this new ERP, which is enterprise resource planning software, which is like inventory, manufacturing,
Yeah.
all that stuff. It was also tied into accounting software. And like it was the same thing. Like the sales guy came in, we walked him around. This is how we
Right.
manufacture, spent days here.
Right.
Yeah, we'll do everything you need, blah, blah, blah. And then so we start this project, and like to implement the software, it's all customized, and you have to pay thousands of dollars to. I think by the time we decided it wasn't going to work for us, we
Yeah.
were into it like 40 grand
Oh, wow.
of just like implementing it all.
Yep.
And then the financial aspect of it, it's called Financial Force. It's like a cloud-based financial software.
Okay.
We never even got it working.
Oh my God.
And they were like, yeah, but you still have a 3-year contract. You have to.
Yeah.
And we're like, guys, we haven't even installed it. You know, they're like, well, the contract is 3 years. So we ended up having to like get our lawyer involved.
Oh
and-
no. I mean, we've had those too. Yeah. You invest in something and then you have sunk costs and stuff. And then
Yeah.
you end up spending more money. It's
Yeah.
like good money after bad. There's that slogan. It's like, when do you know you should just cut it?
Mhm.
I mean, we all make those decisions. Like a bad relationship. It's the same thing. It's like you date someone for like 5 years. You're like, oh man, I've been with this
Yeah.
person for 5 years.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just going to keep on these dates. And I'm like,
Tinder's
yeah.
not even free anymore.
Yeah. Why? I don't, is it not? Oh.
No.
But like, yeah, it's literally like a bad relationship.
Yeah.
That's so funny. But there was something I was going to say and I totally forgot.
So you are a woman business owner in the juicing world.
Thank you for noticing.
You do identify as a woman, right?
Identified as a business owner and a woman. Yes,
Okay.
thank you.
There's a lot of women business owners in the juicing world.
Mhm.
How do you feel about the diversity aspect of it?
So I think there's a lot of talk of female entrepreneurs right now, and like that's like a new thing that a lot of people are like focusing their differences, and I think it's great. It's amazing. Like I think we all need to work together to continue to support each other. I think I do identify also as like this Asian like female that's been a little bit different to navigate because we also don't fit. I think so in DC, this is funny enough because there's not a lot of Asians in DC. When we were first like scouting our real estate and everything, I would be known as like the Asian girl, the Asian juice girl. Like that was what people would call us, the Asian juice girl.
Mhm.
And that's not necessarily how you like want to be known as necessarily. So I think those are areas where where I could give back, or looking back where I can help others is just in that area too, where our stigmas kind of go against us a little bit. And I would like to support more other entrepreneurs that are either, Asian females, or that were always kind of boxed into being really good at math and like really quiet and do piano. And we are that though. We definitely are all those things, but like we're also many other things. So I think that's, yeah.
How do you feel about the movie Crazy Rich Asians?
I mean, it's funny. I had mixed feelings on it. I think it was great. I think it was funny. I think it put spotlight on people and a race that didn't have that spotlight before. I think now that a lot of people joke about it and like, are you crazy rich Asian? I'm like, no, I'm crazy crazy not rich Asian.
Crazy poor Asian.
Crazy poor Asian here. Yeah, sorry, I'm not from Singapore. I'm Japanese. So, but yeah, and I think how my parents did business was also like a probably a big impact to how we do business here. And like my parents were immigrants into Canada and Vancouver, or Japanese. And they had a sushi restaurant. My dad was a gardener.
really?
Yeah,
Cool.
of course we had a restaurant, right? But it teaches you a lot of things, I think, of like hard work, getting your hands dirty.
Did your parents work in the restaurant?
Oh, yeah. My dad was probably a little more active than my mom, but my mom was, she was a photographer and like her entrepreneur in
Cool.
like her own way. So, but my dad was more involved in the sushi restaurant side of things.
Sounds like a really interesting childhood.
Yeah. Just like working really hard and just watching them. Yeah. We were doing so many different things and just evolved. Yeah, I don't know how to explain it. My two older sisters, which I'm very grateful for, that they did not run their own business because they were nice sort of backbones to like lean on at times, lead very different paths. So my oldest sister is still in finance. She's at JP Morgan, and like was at Goldman Sachs also before. And then my middle sister is in social work. So she she helps with like trauma and like kids that were taken away from their homes and families. Yeah.
It's amazing.
So very different worlds. Yeah.
Cool.
But all good.
So where do you see, do you have any kind of vision of where you see the juice and health and wellness market going?
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know if it's correct or in any way or form, but I think juice, I think there's two different movements going. There's like the press juicery model where you're like $5 HPP mass market. And I think that's going to be one angle that you go. And that's going to be more of like the whole grocery store and like mass. It's available everywhere. And I think press juicery has really leaned into that. And I give them straight kudos for that because I don't think there's many companies that really lean into what they're doing. And that's always been his vision. And I think they're going to continue to succeed in that. I don't know if they're profitable, but I think their membership model and everything about that is going to make a lot of sense. I
think they're up when I ran into them at Expo West, they said I think they're going to be up to 100 stores last year.
I can imagine. Yeah.
So that is unique. They drive their sales with their retail stores, but probably most of their business, I'd imagine, is like wholesale and direct to consumer.
I think so. I mean, how much? Or like $5 through stores, as well as like I saw press juicer in Canada. So they might be starting wholesale in like other countries even to start.
Yeah, I saw an interview with Hayden and he mentioned Japan.
Oh, interesting. Yeah, I could see that. That's like a whole LA to Japan connection. Like Alfred Coffee, same thing.
Well, have you seen the original cold pressed juice bar in Venice Beach what's it called? LA Juice Club or something?
LA Juice Bar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He opened in Tokyo.
Is he still open?
Yeah, I was just there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So are they more invested in Tokyo than LA?
Well, he lives there now. They just have one juice bar and a ice cream shop there.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So I don't think he's really got any big plans or anything.
Got it. I mean, that's okay.
Yeah.
And I think there's a model for that too, where it's just like your, mom and pop or just like 1-2 shop, like local thing. And that's because you do really well every day in and out. And that just makes you so happy. And I think that's an amazing thing. I almost sometimes wish I could just be like that.
Right. Yeah,
I want to be simple. Like I do, but I'm not.
Maria Kondo.
Yeah. Like a Marie Kondo, like what is it? Oh my God, what's her book called again?
I don't know.
Oh, it's like, oh my God, this is like fading me. Anyway, so I want to Marie Kondo my life.
I can look it up.
It's like the life-changing art of tidying up.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was thinking about the other one. There's a knockoff book for that. The life-changing art of not giving a fuck.
Oh, nice.
It's pretty funny. So I think on the juice side, so that's one model. The second is kind of like that mom and pop, like small, like brick and mortar juice shop, and you probably offer many other kind of foods items. And then I think like the creation juice model, where you have juices and like a full menu, and you're almost like a restaurant. So you probably have like 2,000 square feet. You juice on site, and you just make great glass bottled $10 really fucking good juice.
I really like creation.
Yeah, I really like creation too. But they could do good in so many different areas. They're a real restaurant.
Yeah, that's also like even a level up from that is Cafe Gratitude,
yes.
right?
Yep.
They're like a vegan restaurant.
Yes.
That also has a juice component.
Absolutely. And like Earhorn, I think it's
Erewhon?
Like, Erewhon.
Earhorn.
Clearly not from LA.
Oh my God.
From DC. might have to correct that for me.
Oh,
Yeah.
you heard it here first. The official pronunciation is ear horn. That's great.
Anyway, that was my.
I'm gonna send this to Tony.
That's so funny. And then I think the last one is what we're trying to do here is omni-channel. It's full bricks and clicks. So if I look at our business, I think we're more of a tech business that has digital acquisition channels vis-a-vis our shops that can move around, easily fold in and move it to like another kind of like retail as a service model. And then we're opening in Whole Foods for JRINK as a brand because it's both the affiliation that we make really great juice and we have good smoothies, we make good bowls. I don't think we're going to lean into like making food and toast.
Right.
It's just not, it's going to confuse, I think, our business. And so leaning into making more volume juices. And then I think for wellness as a whole, I think for Wellthy is that we want to actually create these new Sephora of wellness shops. So these are going to be walk-in places where it's this Sephora experience where you get multiple types of brands that are focused on the mind, the body, and the spirit.
Nice.
Kind of like when you walk into Sephora, you have like your fragrances and your skincare and your makeup. This is like for your mind, like CBD stuff to your adaptogens and then some juices. And then your body is like your skin. So adaptogens and herbs for your skin. So this is like apothecary talking.
Yeah.
And then juices are going to be elixirs for, you know, like in the cooler side.
So then you think there's room for multiple brands of apothecary type stuff, obviously.
In
right?
in the Wellthy 2.0 model. I think so.
Well, I don't mean in your company, but I mean just in the, like if you have a Sephora of all these different brands.
Sure.
There's gonna be a
You'll
lot
need
of
to
brands.
diversify it out. And I think sometimes, as an owner, we say we want everything to be our brand. And I get that. And I think we were so dogmatic about that in the last 5 years, especially as we were building JRINK. But I think as a consumer, sometimes I say, okay, is there more of experiential to go into a shop where you have multiple brands? Or is it more experiential as a customer to go into a store with one brand?
Right.
I actually think it's the former too. It's like there's multiple brands. You can touch and feel. You can,
for sure.
And like the whole Sephora model is actually that you do have multiple brands you can play with.
You're right. So that is an experience choosing, right?
Exactly. And like getting to touch and feel so many different things. But you actually end up buying their private label because now you trust Sephora because now they have all the other brands and they're cheaper and they're the same thing.
Right.
So that's why Sephora does so well in their private label. So I actually think that's like that's an interesting model.
And they have the whole experience too. They have all the girls that will help you put stuff on and test it, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's like, but we'll have pharmacies, like pharmacists, like cool looking pharmacists that like know their shit and like really know the herbs and like can really do it based on your dosha type. So based on your dosha, like, which is the Ayurvedic term for like a constitution of your body, we can personalize like what your mind routine looks like, what your body routine looks like, and what your spiritual routine can look like. Because that's what wellness is. It's like a 360 approach.
I feel like Moon Juice has always done that really well. Like you walk into their store and their staff has always been super educated. They'll ask you a bunch of questions and recommend stuff.
Right. And it's like the branding and everything. Yeah. Cool. So, I mean, I would say the one thing that I think like with online only companies that we're seeing is that it's hard now. Online is getting more competitive. So building legitimacy, building trust. And I think that's where sometimes as a founder and sometimes when you raise money, the conversation needs to build in more time. I think in the wellness world, what's different versus skincare or beauty, it's not fast. It's like you need to earn trust. You need to have repeat rates. Right. You need to educate people because it's like about their wellness. And so that's where I think wellness and venture capital tend to go head to head. It's not quick. It's not quick money. And so I think that conversation needs to change.
Yeah, it's like a long-term building relationships with the customers.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So it's a different funding model. Right. And I think the world, and we talked about this yesterday, is I think venture is also going to have its like evolution and change. That model is going to have to change. You're not getting those 10x returns anymore. Yeah. And definitely not under 3 or 4 years. Yeah.
It's going to be more smaller businesses and less big ones.
Yeah. and like maybe more profitable ones. So thinking of like how your new models change. Like there's a great new VC shop called Indie VC. I don't know if you've heard of him, but he focuses more on like the tuft and needle Basecamp Slack model where you're still growing. Just because you're growing and you're profitable, it doesn't mean you're a lifestyle business, which gets shit on so often. But yeah, that whole model of like fast growth without having to like give up your entire company.
Interesting.
Yeah. So.
All right. So, if people want to get a hold of you and ask you any questions, how can they do that?
They can reach me at Shizu, SHIZU, at JRINK.com, not drink with a D. If they want to email me, or you can find me on Instagram. It's just my first and last name, Shizu Okusa.
And you have a feedback form for the Canteen software
Correct.
that you'd like people to fill out.
That would be wonderful. If you'd like to be a part of the beta program or just to give us some data, and we'll be in touch, and we'll eventually be sending out some like supply chain, omni-channel sort of like technology, sort of like content into the latter part of this year. And then we'll obviously hopefully be at JuiceCon, and you can like learn more about Canteen and sort of our services. But again, the idea is that like, let's take your brick and mortar to bricks and clicks, and we'll help you navigate that.
All right. And so we'll put a link to that, I guess, in the description of the video.
Perfect.
And any other final thoughts or anything you want to get across to everybody?
I mean, just keep going at it. You know, I think just don't give up. And like, you know, I think it's one of those things that Rob and I were even talking about is just, if you don't give up in the process, your most uncomfortable time is probably the most pivotal time where you actually will make a pivot. I think our most uncomfortable time, or when I was probably in the hardest moments in the dumps, is like the last year and a half, where it's like you've been doing this for 4 years, you don't know where it's going, you don't know what to do, like you don't know what the next stage of growth looks like. It's like something will come at you, like you'll wake up and like something happens. And so just give yourself some opportunity to like stay nimble, stay open, like travel a little bit, and like get yourself out of the day-to-day. I think will be really helpful in like learning what your true calling or what your true business really will be. Because chances are juice might not be that thing that's going to be forever for you. It'll be a component of it. And juice was like the nature of how you acquired your customers. And you'll continue to like press juice, but you'll probably make other products that might be your hero product one day. Who knows? Yeah.
Cool. I think it's a great place to end it.
Awesome.
Thanks so much, Shizu.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening, everybody.
Bye, guys.
Peace.